Good evening. It's August 23rd, 2022, and this is the regular meeting of council for the month of August, which is a combined regular meeting as well as a planning meeting. It's 5:30 and we are bringing the meeting to order. The first item we have is the adoption of the agenda. We did have an agenda provided to council this evening. Can I get a mover please to adopt it as presented? Moved by Posthumus, seconded by Duval. Any discussion? All in favor? And that's carried. Great, we have a bunch of minutes to confirm. So the first one is the July 19th council planning meeting. Were there any edits to those minutes? Hearing none, can I get a mover and seconder please for Rechko and Duval, all in favor? And that's also carried. Next item is the July 22nd, 2022 special meeting of council. Sorry, can I get the resolution read? I think I missed that last time there, Suzanne.
Be it resolved that the council meeting minutes of the July 22nd, 2022 special meeting be approved.
Thank you. Mover and seconder, please. Duval and Devlin, discussion. All in favor? And those are carried. The next set of minutes are from July 29th special meeting. Resolution, please.
Be it resolved that the council meeting minutes of the July 29th, 2022 special meeting be approved.
Thank you. Mover and seconder, Posthumus and Rechko. All in favor? That's carried. August 3rd.
Be it resolved that the council meeting minutes of the August 3rd, 2022 special meeting be approved.
Thank you. Mover and seconder. Devlin and Duval, all in favor? So carried. The last set, August 10th special meeting.
Be it resolved that the council meeting minutes of the August 10th, 2022 special meeting be approved.
Thank you. Seconder, Rechko and Posthumus, all in favor? So also carried. Great, we have no delegations this evening, but we do have two public hearings. The first one is a variation order. And I will ask our acting CEO please to read the introduction on public hearings before we begin.
Council wishes to thank you for taking an interest in what is happening in your municipality by attending this evening. The purpose of these public hearings is to receive representations from the applicant and any persons who wish to make them concerning what is proposed. We will hear first from the applicant and from those present who wish to make representations, starting with anyone who wants to speak in favor of the proposal, followed by those who are opposed or object to the proposal. At the end of these other presentations, the applicant will have an opportunity to respond. If anyone intends to make a presentation for any of the hearings scheduled for this evening, please record your name and contact information on the appropriate sign-in sheet located at the desk as you enter council chambers. Applicants must also sign in. If you haven't signed in, please do so now so you have an opportunity to speak to council. At the end of each presentation, the members of council may ask for clarification from the speaker on any fact or issue, but will not enter into a debate. Persons speaking must address the chair. If they have questions that they think the applicant should answer, they should raise them in their presentation to the chair. The applicant will have an opportunity to respond to questions when the other presentations are finished. If the hearing is not completed today, whether because we run out of time or further information is to be provided, we will adjourn the hearing. If we adjourn, we will tell you at this hearing the date for the continued public hearing. There will be no other notices given of the date. Even if all the representations are completed, we may not be making our decision today. Until our decision is made, there can be no further communication of any kind with council or the members of about the proposal. When council makes its decision, all persons who made a representation at the hearing will be notified. Tonight, we will be hearing a variation order. When council makes its decision on the application, it is final. There is no appeal.
Thank you. And could I get you please to open the resolution for the public hearing?
Be it resolved that council open the public hearing of council for variation order 71, 2022 for 3184 Henderson Highway.
Thank you. Can I get a mover and seconder, please? Frenchco and Devlin, all in favor? That's carried and the public hearing is open. I will turn the floor over to Mr. Santan Singh of Red River Planning to walk us through this application.
Thank you, ma'am. Good evening, council. This is variance application VO 71 2022. The subject property is located at 3184 Henderson Highway. The applicant wishes to allow for multiple variances for an accessory building in the single housing zone. This is the variance request table. The applicant wishes to increase the size of an accessory structure from the required 800 square feet to 2400 square feet, increase the maximum height from the required 16 feet to 24.5 feet, and vary the section 51.4 of the St. Paul zoning bylaw to allow the proposed structure constructed before the principal structure. This is the location map identifying the subject property and illustrating the surrounding area. As you can see, the property is located along Henderson Highway and Red River runs along west of the property. This is the site plan provided by the applicant. The structure exists on the adjoining property, that is 3188 Henderson Highway, also owned by the applicant. The applicant wants to relocate the building to the subject property, which is currently vacant. The applicant wishes to construct a home within the next 2 years. As stated earlier, the applicant is proposing to relocate the existing structure to the adjoining property. Red River Planning circulated this application to various provincial agencies and departments. We did not receive any objections. Should the council approve this variance, we recommend 3 conditions. Number 1, this variance is limited to a maximum building area height and placement of the attached accessory structure before the principal building as proposed in this application. Any changes in use, additions, and or replacement may require new variance approval. Number 2, the applicant owner obtains all the required permits from Red River Planning District, Manitoba Transportation and Infrastructure Water Management Department, Manitoba Transportation and Infrastructure Roadside Development, and the municipality. Number 3, the proposed accessory building is to be used for personal use only. Thank you. If the council has any questions, I'd be happy to answer.
Mr. Singh, any questions for the planner?
Yes, Mr. Planner, how wide is that property? 3184, I think it is. You know the width of it?
I believe it's 105 feet.
105.
105.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Councilor Frenchco?
Curious when this was approved to begin with, because it never kind of fit into the St. Paul demographics, the size and the height and everything.
Right. We do not have records of building permit for this structure.
So it's been there for a long, long time.
It's been there for a while, but we don't have any records of the permit.
So to confirm that, we don't know when it was built because there was no permits probably taken for it. Would that?
Yeah, you can say that.
Well,
Or-
you can answer that question later. You don't have to worry about it now. I'm sorry, I was talking to somebody who's putting their hand up in the audience center. You don't have any records.
We don't.
Thank you.
So RRPD doesn't have any records,
All right.
right? Does the RM have a record or City of Winnipeg have a record? You don't do that investigation?
We haven't done that for the.
Okay, okay. Does Karen know?
I'm pretty sure his assistant reached out to me to check and I indicated we didn't have any, she could check with the state of Winnipeg.
Okay, but no one's checked with the city. Okay, thank you.
Great. Any other questions for the planner?
I go by, look like it's a lot bigger than that even. It's a big deal. I go by and it looks like it's a lot bigger than this. I guess the match is a positive that's 2400, because if they're wrong on that, when the permit comes and they measure it out, they'll understand. But I guess that's an answer for
Yeah.
Any questions for the planner?
Just to piggyback off that, did the applicant provide a BLC for the building?
No, just a site plan.
Okay, thank you.
All right.
Could you flip back to that sketch of the two properties? That one. Fairly rough sketch, but does not show the exact location, the exact new location. How far is it, or does it show that? 10 to 15 feet perhaps?
This is the proposed relocation on the adjoining lot. This is the existing.
Yes, and the proposed location, how far is it away from the neighboring property to the left?
Is it about
Is that a dimension there? It's hard to see from here.
doesn't say a distance from the
Says-
adjoining property.
10 to 15.
10, 15 feet, I think,
Does that say 10 to 15 feet?
from property line.
This is the property boundary and it's about 10 to 15 feet. Side yard requirement for this zone is 10 feet.
Sorry?
Side yard requirement for this zone is 10 feet.
Yes, okay, thank you.
It'll probably be for the applicant. You don't see how close it's to the neighboring house.
I can pull up a-
So,
You can see it on the
Yeah.
Google map. On the other,
It's going from there, right beside the house, moving over beside this neighbor.
all right, so maybe some of these questions can be answered by the applicant.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Singh.
hey, Madam Mayor, one more comment. This is only a comment, Mr. Planner, but these views are very useful to us. The sketches are useful as well, but these are the ones that really give us a view of what is happening there. And if somehow that relocated building could be superimposed over top of that view, that would be really helpful.
All right. With that, we will open the floor to the applicant. Well, are you Charles? Is that
Yes, I am.
Charles and the last name?
Ryer, Reyher.
Okay, and you live on Henderson Highway at a different address right now?
Yeah, I'm currently at
Okay. All right, go
4210.
ahead. This is your opportunity to tell council why you're making this application.
Well, I'm looking to upgrade from my current house. I basically have a very, very similar property to this right now. I'm on about 3 acres right now. This was here is a little bit bigger. I'm looking to build a final home for myself and my family. I've lived out on Henderson now for almost 17 years. I guess some of the concerns were like the location of this. I mean, when I'm looking to move this building, I mean, there's on this property here that I just purchased, there's a lot of 100-year-old plus trees, right? And I'm trying to preserve a lot of this stuff here. Like I'd really hate to, lose a bunch of this, this forestry that's there. It's a pretty prestigious corner, as we all know. 3184 doesn't lend itself well for a house. I would hate to have to agglomerate both of these properties into one address. I'd still like to have the option to have that one driveway open, but it won't be used. The primary driveway will be used on 3188. Again, some of the concerns that I was hearing was maybe they were thinking I was going to use this as commercial space. Like I have a couple 100,000 square feet of commercial space already. I'm not looking to do any kind of business out of here. This is just storage for travel trailers, boats. I've started getting into the cars and stuff. So, and I know Maria, the owner to the south. I know her sons really well. Let's face it, this building was actually built in '95. I called the East St. Paul about it. There's actually a 1995 embodied in the concrete pile there in the shop. So I was looking to see if there was any permits or anything done. It seems like the previous owner maybe have started some renovations in there, but it's kind of in shambles, really. And to be honest, it's not the greatest, it's not the most appealing building right now, right? I'm trying to spruce it up here a little bit. And I mean, being at the intersection where it is, right? I don't want my kids and stuff, you know, leaving out that address, you know, through an uncontrolled intersection, because there's no lights leaving that intersection, right? So you have 3 ways of traffic coming at you from all ways. So 3188 will be my primary driveway to the house whenever I decide to build. I've been talking to a couple of builders. Trevor Markovich seems to be one of the front runners, but again, that's to be decided. My main concern is moving this building over. So where this building currently resides is where I'd like to put the house without disturbing any of the forestry around there. Person who put this building there, really, I don't think they really thought it all that much, but I can't say for what happened back then, but yeah, no, like I say, once this building is off the property and I'm gonna try and hide it as much as possible, right? I mean, I don't want it to be a commercial or look commercial. I'd rather have it look like a garage, the detached garage, essentially. That's my ultimate goal, so.
Great, thank you. I just want to touch on something you mentioned. These are 2 separate titles.
Yes,
And so you're wanting to move this storage shed onto a piece of property that you're not going to build the house on.
right.
So our current bylaw doesn't permit that. So what you're asking is to permanently put a shed on the property with no house ever contemplated on being built, because you're going to build your house on the other piece of property.
Right.
And so in doing so, you'd still be using the storage shed on that piece of property. That would be your intent.
Correct.
Okay. And you don't intend to amalgamate the 2 properties?
Like I said, I'd like to keep maintain both approaches, right? You know, I used to have a very large boat. If you look at the property or the driveway at 3188, there's 3 really nice oak trees right as you pull in. You know, it doesn't really, you can't really get any long trailers in there and stuff to store. You know, I had a 40-foot boat before. It doesn't park very easily. You know, I may end up upgrading again as well. So it's hard to say, but.
Do you have 2 approaches on these 2 pieces right now?
Yeah, yeah.
Councilor Gretschko?
So you were saying that you would like to keep this looking like commercial, but it's pretty hard for a metal
Well, no, I wasn't.
workshop to look residential.
Yeah, I agree.
It's that tall. I mean, the thing looks like a workshop.
That's right.
I mean, you mentioned the Cabrels. I know they were not happy looking at that for the last
Yeah,
20 years.
yeah.
And now it's going to be closer to the property.
Yeah, like there's a lot of nice products out there, actually. Like some of the boards and some of the siding that they have out there right now, like is really nice. My dad's actually he put the same size building up at his cabin in Sioux Narrows, and it doesn't look commercial at all. Like, and I'm trying to finish it to match the house, you know. I mean, I don't want to really have it stand out as an eyesore for anyone, right?
I hope your house isn't going to look like a metal.
Well, I hope not too.
Yeah.
I mean, based on the value of the property, it doesn't lend itself well to go and put like shanties up, right?
Yeah, bang on. But I'm going back to the thing. I look at the river properties as our signature homes in East St. Paul.
100%.
And I look at that metal workshop as an eyesore.
You and I both. You and I both.
So the clarification there, you're not intending to move the existing shed as it is onto the new property, are you?
Well, the reason why I did and worded it the way I worded it, I mean, the biggest cost here is the concrete, right? I mean, it's going to be over $100,000 touch just for the concrete. And I mean, if you're starting right there, I mean, you might as well just continue on.
So
Yeah,
I'm not sure if that answers my question.
The siding,
That
no, I wasn't,
materials from the shed that exists now, are you using those materials to rebuild it on the other
no,
property?
probably not, no. No, I might have, maybe was thinking about maybe try to use the trust package on there, but I think I'm actually gonna just call the Hutterites and see if I can sell it to them.
Councilor Dillon?
So then I'm confused by the application because the application is to move the structure. You're just asking to move the pad. So essentially you're asking for a building permit on a new lot. Why are we even talking about this structure that's
Well,
on your property right now?
Because I assume since the building was there on this lot, it's a nice size, you know, it's perfect for what I need it for storage and stuff. You know, I just figured it was since it's right here, I could just move it here. I would like to keep that size, square footage, so I'm applying for variances for that. The height is a little excessive, I'll agree. The pitch doesn't have to be that steep, right? And then the primary building, that's the other issue.
So just for clarity, you want to build the same size structure on 3184. Sorry.
Yes, that's correct.
Right, 3184, just the same size, but the structure that's on your property at 3188, you're gonna demolish.
Yes. That's where right where the structure is where I want to build a house.
So I'm just kind of. I think I have to ask our previous question then.
We can go back.
Yeah, okay. Okay, and so the purpose of building, buying the lot was to not have neighbors or to have a shop on this lot? Was that your intent?
I've always wanted to put a shop up, even at my current residence. And when I found this one come up for sale, yes, it is a nice shop. I've looked at other ways in order to keep this shop where it is, right? It's just unfortunate that it's right on the river. Like, it's not very appealing.
So, but you don't want to amalgamate your lots so that then you could,
Like, I don't mind paying a little extra tax for the second approach, but like I say, I'd like to put a couple of gates there and stuff and maybe, you know, close it off. It might be used periodically, but I don't want 3184 to be used as my primary.
oh, I understand that, but you wouldn't want to amalgamate the lots, then it's essentially one lot and it's a different application. You would already have the variance.
Yeah, that would be, I guess, a different route. But again, if I go that route, I'm pretty sure I won't be allowed to have two approaches.
Okay, thank you.
Councilor Dillon?
I'm a little confused about what you're wanting to do here. You want to maintain two separate lots, which is a good idea because they maintain more value when they're both separate, no question about it. And you want to build your new house on 3188 down near the river. That makes a whole lot of sense, just like all the neighbors are. And your current shop is sitting there. Now you're going to move that shop over to 3184 and plunk it right in the same disadvantaged location. Isn't that true?
Well, I'm trying to work around some mature trees that are there. Like if you've actually had an opportunity to look at this property, like there's some 80, 100-foot trees on this property. So I'm trying to work it around and also hide it as best as possible. Now, I'm going to be planting a lot of trees here as well. Like I'm not trying to build some conglomerate eyesore for everybody to look at, right? Like.
But the location, the problem where your shop is now is where someone wants to build a house.
Absolutely.
You're planning on moving it
Yeah.
to the next lot and putting it in the same spot where someone in the future may want to build a house. It's a separate title.
Yeah, there's a couple options I had, and like when you were questioning.
Well, and just my question to you is that, Mike, have I got that right? That's where you want to move that shed?
Yeah.
Okay, now I know there's trees everywhere. And when we look at the overview of that property, I don't know how old that picture is versus the one I'm looking at here. But of the two combined sites, especially 3188, there's a lot of room to put that shop somewhere other than where you plan. And my whole point is this: it is going to be right alongside a neighboring house that looks, from this view, looks like very nice property. And you're going to put this shop 10 feet away from the property line, and it's a big building. as we've all said, something just doesn't ring right here. You got a lot of room to put that shop.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm trying to build a fairly substantial house here as well, right? And where I want to position, like, yes, 3188 does have a lot of space, but there's a substantial amount of trees, like very mature trees on 3188. You know, the other option would be for me to agglomerate the two together, but I mean, I'm not looking to ever resell one portion or the other, right? So I
Ever is a
don't,
long time.
sorry?
Ever is a long time. We have to sit here and consider the future, not just what your intent is very well received, but we have to consider the future.
Oh, I fully understand.
Yeah, so, you know, like, I mean, that's a tough one, because once we approve it and you leave it as separate titles, you can actually sell it. It doesn't.
I fully understand.
And normally we do not approve detached building before the home is built,
Yeah,
you know, so that's kind of puts us in a bad spot. Then the other one, if I was your neighbor in the winter time when there's no leaves on the trees, more properties can see that nice, beautiful metal workshop.
yeah, I wasn't planning on using metal.
From the aerial view, I see that the access to the shed is from 3185.
Yes.
That's where you get your access to it.
Yes.
And they just built it on an angle for some reason.
That angle actually follows that berm that was put in there in the flood of 97.
Okay.
I understand there's a big berm there. Like I say, it goes all the way, stretches over from the Cabral's sons at 3212 is where that berm ends, and it starts right at the creek there. And that was done in 97. So it's well built. I mean, it's on piles and it's on a grade beam. I mean, it's just.
But essentially you're tearing it down, so there's no point talking about it.
Yeah.
Now you say you want to build a big home on 3188, which is great. You would still have to meet side yard requirements of 10 feet.
Oh, I'd like to have way more than that. Yeah.
So why then wouldn't you put the shop adjacent to your property line if you have no intent of amalgamating? You would still have to meet the 10-foot side yard requirement, but why put it on your neighbor's side?
That was just a rough estimate. Like I say, I gotta have some surveys done and stuff like that. I'm not trying to flood anyone out. I'm definitely not trying to build an eyesore. I'm a big fan of greenery. I mean, if you look at my current residence, you understand exactly how I kind of operate.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean,
So when you apply for an application and you're showing us where you're placing it, it's important
Yeah.
for us to know placement. That's why I'm surprised there wasn't a VLC requested, because a building location certificate would tell us exactly where it is in the property, the size, the side yard, and how large it is. Because currently we're looking at a roof and essentially taking, you know, it's kind of on an honor system right now.
Yeah.
That is 2,400 square feet. So I'm was curious as to why you chose to place it on the property line adjacent to the neighboring property, opposed to the shared line between 3184 and 3188, because it's not going to impede on you building a home.
yeah, it will, because if you can see the greenery there, like in the middle, in the front of the shop, if you look basically straight down from that photo, there's a big greenery.
Yeah.
And that greenery is on both titles, right? But that's really the only location you have to build a house there. Like,
Is in your greenery.
yeah, there's those.
You have to take those trees out to build a house, because there'll be strict requirements off of the Red River, and you know, maybe some stabilization. I'm not certain.
100%, yeah.
But
I'm all for it.
there will be a setback that you'll have to meet, and you're probably going to be in that greenery. You know, some of these houses are closer because they were built years prior to understanding of stabilization and erosion on the banks. So I'm not sure what the requirements of it, but essentially you're going to lose some of that greenery regardless. But it would never impede on your building. If you're keeping these as two titles, you would always still have to meet that 10-foot side yard requirement. So I just was wondering why you didn't choose to go on the shared line opposed to the neighboring line.
Just based on where I want my attached garage to my residence. And basically like I say, the driveway at 3188 is actually gonna continue on. I'd like to demolish that house would be my next step, but I'm concerned about not having a primary residence for on that lot. Because it's really a hazard too right now, like it's not appealing, like.
Thank you, that's all my questions.
Councillor Devlin covered, yeah, there is new restrictions, it's all, so I don't know if it's covered. Now, it can be a lot further back. I'm confused how this came through because you can't build a garage on an empty property. That's a different title. Not the house owner, and usually they never let you build it before. So I'm not sure how that even. And this would be a whole new application. Yeah, problems getting tall, but a regular garage 24 by 36 is not over 600 square feet. But you want to put up it's over twice the size of this room.
Yeah, it was there. I mean, it's a nice size, right? I mean, I'm not disputing what you're
Well,
saying.
many years ago, it was probably.
Yeah, East St. Paul actually had some information on it from, I had made the call earlier on. Yeah, Red River had no idea about it, but.
Just because it's there doesn't make it right.
Yeah, no,
But you're coming for a whole new application on a different type of property, just with a shop. That's what some bylaws like.
If I could I just ask our planner, just from either planner, because I think the question was asked about how did this come to this table if it's not a permitted use? And my assumption is, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, that even if it's against our zoning bylaws, every person has a right to make an application on something, whether or not it's within our bylaw or not. That's basically what a variance is to begin with. So can you confirm that first?
That's fine. Anybody can make an application. Doesn't matter whether it conforms to the bylaws or not.
And this one, I would say this one is when I read the package, I assumed the house that you were planning to build was going on the property where this shed is being moved. So it is a vast departure from the normal, we want to build a shed first, often people want to store stuff in it and have it there to maybe put equipment, building materials and such, but now hearing there's no house to be built there by yourself, at least, it changes kind of the application
okay.
in a general sense. Councilor Bevan?
In your letter of intent, it said that I would like to move the existing steel building.
Yeah.
But that's just a play on words. You were just meaning that you wanted to.
Yeah, as I started thinking about it, like, I'm not trying to build a multi-million-dollar estate here and look at a steel building, like, it's
Okay,
not
so-
my intentions, right? I just assumed that, I mean, I've never done any of this before, so I'm all relatively new to it. I just assumed it was there. I'm on the title on both properties. I could just simply state that, hey, this is already here, it's already existing. I just want to basically turn it 90 degrees and shift it over an extra 100 feet.
Right, but an absolute new structure.
Well, yeah, essentially, yeah, you can't move concrete, right? So it's, yeah,
It
it's,
changes the application a bit. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Cindy Breyer, same last name. Did you want to speak or are you just in support? Okay. David Gray? David Gray, you're in.
I've heard it all pretty well.
You're in support?
I understand that the properties, that
You wanna
the
come
shed's
up to the
gonna,
mic, sir?
oh, excuse me. I got a clear understanding what he wants to do. He wants to move his steel structured building onto his vacant lot and not build a house on it. So I guess I cannot see how you would even approve such an idea.
Okay, you signed in support for this. Is that where you want your?
No, I'm just here for a witness to what's going on. I view that steel structured building. Anybody have any idea what it looks like? So I'm right north, or I should say south to that. So I can see that building from my yard. So I guess in the future, I'll probably see it even better if it gets moved closer to me. So
So did you want to stay in support, opposition, or for information?
I would say I'm open. I guess location, depending on where the location of that such a structure.
Assume it's where it's going to be right now. When you sign in on your sign-in sheet.
Yeah.
There's 3 categories.
Okay.
You're either in support,
Oh,
you're in opposition, or you're for information.
oh, I apologize.
You signed-
I signed in the wrong spot.
No, that's why I'm trying to clarify where you want to be.
I think you guys have to do more research before I can make an opinion. Because if you were going to allow him to build a 2,400 square foot structure on a vacant lot without a residence, I'll be the next person in line to do the same thing. I have a vacant lot.
So based on your comments.
Yeah.
Because you won't tell me where you want to move, I'm gonna leave you in support.
Okay.
Unless you want to tell me where you want to be moved.
Let's say undecided. I apologize.
I'm sorry?
I'll be undecided.
That's for information.
Okay, we'll put you for information.
Yeah.
Last,
You may go ahead.
what's your address?
My address?
Yes.
I'm at 1040 Highland Park and 1035.
Okay,
So,
right there at the end.
yeah, so I'm on the creek.
You see it from there.
Okay.
Any other questions for Mr. Gray?
So which one is your vacant lot?
1035.
Any other questions?
No.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks.
All right, Kevin Mitchell.
Sure.
Hey, Kevin.
Hi there. Nice to meet my future neighbors. I'm at 3196 Henderson, so I'm coming to the end of a several year renovation on that property and spending way too much money and time on it, but excited to actually be in the neighborhood officially. Right now the building is what I see out of my balcony when I sleep there and wake up in the morning, especially in the winter. So to me, any investment in that property, any love to the building to change the materials, I'm 1000% in support of. I think the applicant's plan makes sense as an owner of both the lots. I would want to do the same thing if I was looking at those properties. And, even when I moved in, I did look at those properties too, just to buy the land and have it as a property that could be demolished and left empty for a while until somebody went to do something with it, because it's, it's basically been an abandoned thing. It's dangerous up front. I do think 184 has an issue having that driveway off Hot Knot. I don't think anybody would ever build a primary residence there unless you put in a traffic light. So I think having it as a secondary entrance to that type of building for the way it's currently laid out makes sense. So completely in support of investment into that property to build a proper estate out there. I think it's beautiful property that just needs money and time and somebody willing to do it. So that's my 2 cents.
Well, the only one,
Could you come back?
Oh, sure.
To allow counselors to ask you questions?
Yeah, my pleasure.
so you see this structure right now out your balcony window.
Correct.
And you'd be
That's-
happier if it was on the other one, because it'd be further away.
Or, well, here's the thing. As a landowner, I don't know whose properties they are, right? I don't know that line. It could be one big property, it could be 2 separate ones. What I know is I see it, right? And it does seem, when I moved in, I thought it was actually a utility building owned by East St. Paul. I thought the whole property was owned by East St. Paul. I had no idea it was a residential place until I was there. So it in its current design and configuration, you kind of go, what the heck am I looking at? But, to have a shop of that size on a, property or properties like that, 100% makes sense. I mean, it's a beautiful spot on the river. It's a great size of property to put something like that. So, I don't know the semantics of the rules and everything, but just in terms of moving that location off the river, turning it sideways, putting it on a property line or towards it. I mean, it's what you'd logically do. What it does for all the neighbors around, I don't know, but anything's an improvement for me, and I'm giving my opinion based on the improvement for me. So, any other questions?
No.
You
Go ahead,
have,
Charles.
Do you have a garage that's not attached?
So I have the main house. I have what we call the pool house guest house. Then there's a storage shed towards that corner, which would be closer to where that shed is, which is currently, it's old. I think it was actually the original garage when it was built in the 50s on the other side, and somebody moved it years and years ago. That should at some point be replaced or come down, and I would do something else maybe in that back corner of the property. I call that a shed. I have a 3-door attached garage on the house. The pool house is 1,000 square feet. And then that shed would be very small, but it's the one thing I didn't renovate, that at some point I would probably do something more, based on whatever's allowed, some sort of seating area or outdoor sauna towards the river where you can get the view, that kind of
No,
thing.
what I'm getting at, sort of 17 is around 600 range.
Okay.
Nothing.
Yeah, I mean, somebody just built this, right?
It's there.
All right, thank you. I'm sorry, does somebody else have a question?
It's fine, it's fine. No, I'm good.
We have one last addition to this, and that's Mr. Brian Warwick. Mr. Warwick, did you want to speak? Sure.
So never met this new neighbor or this neighbor till recently, but I did do some due diligence in trying to find out what's going on in my 2 properties. The Cabral property actually just sold at the same time as Charles's property, the one he just purchased. And of course, always wondering what's going on, because we like to know what's going on in our community or going on next door, right? So I went over to meet Charles, and he explained to me on a couple of occasions what his plans are. And actually, I'm in favor of it. I support it. What Mr. Mitchell was saying, it's a breath of fresh air. I'm not saying that what I see now is that devastating. It's been there since I moved in. It doesn't bother me. So if it wasn't even to be moved in its present form, I'm so used to it being there, I don't think I would be worried about it. If he's planning to improve the look of it, even better. But like Mr. Mitchell was saying, a very good point. And when you look at the overall site and what Charles is trying to do there, there's not much what he's planning, and there's not many other ideas I could think of, or anybody, and I'm sure he's racked his brain trying to think of what to do, because as far as preserving trees, trying to keep sight lines good for him and his neighbors, because if you really look at where he's planning to put the building, it's actually hidden quite well from the Cabral house, and probably Dave Gray's house as well. I see it well in the wintertime. I'll still see it, but again, if he's planning to put it as a structure that's going to match the house, again, I'm not in opposition to it at all.
Any questions for Mr. Warwick?
What's your address?
3154,
Right next door.
2 south. So
Bring up that Google Earth map there.
So there's a black roof house. So you'll see that tennis court right smack dab in the middle of 3174. So just look just a little south of that.
You're at 3154?
Yes. So the roof kind of blends in. So you're almost there, right there, right there. The house is right there, right where your cursor is.
Any other questions for Mr. Warwick? All right, thank you, sir.
Okay, you're very welcome.
Is there anybody else here that didn't sign in this public hearing? All right, council, are we prepared to close the public hearing? All right, resolution, please. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, yes, thank you. Mr. Ryer, we have an opportunity if you want to make some closing comments. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, I just, I mean, I understand your concerns, and I understand maybe keeping it on separate properties might be the issue here. And if this all else fails, I guess that's probably my next turn, right? It's just to aggregate both these properties into one. I mean, really, at the end of the day, it's my land, right? So
Councilor Rachel, you have a question?
I have a question for you, which has nothing to do with the building, but the driveway, 3184, the driveway comes from Hogdon and Henderson, right?
right at the intersection.
And part of it goes to your property, because it's like a Y, and part of it goes to Cabral property, does it not? Same driveway?
No, that's Mr. Brian here. He
Oh, okay.
himself, yeah.
So you guys both share the same driveway, so to speak?
No,
Okay, I got you.
yeah. This property runs right from the intersection. There's actually fresh gravel there that I put in there to kind of clean it up a little bit. It was fairly muddy. It does a kind of a little dog leg, so you can't quite see back there. I'd like to also plant some spruce trees in and around there to block the view, because then you can see in the back in the wintertime. But Cabral used to have a shop there where that driveway kind of runs right by to the back there. But like I say, my primary address, I mean, for my kids leaving on bicycles and whatever else, 3188 is the safer route to go. There's no question about it. It's just, I got a lot of work to do and a lot of time and a lot of money to spend to make it right, so.
Madam Mayor, the owners of 3174, the last name is,
Cabral,
have they
C-A-B-R.
signed in on this public hearing?
No, they actually sold their house back in February. There's new ownerships, but I haven't witnessed any movement around there in a few months.
So you have not had the opportunity to talk to whoever is going to live at 3174.
I have not. No one has.
Actually, it actually just went through July 29th. So the people have probably just maybe taken possession.
July 29th, I think it was, it was recent? Oh, okay.
February, they were, Cabral's still on it. She's still in there.
Well, I took possession May 31st and I think
It's not-
it was, she had delayed it a couple weeks because I ran into Maria a bunch of times. Yeah, yeah. So, yeah, she asked me what I was doing and I told her my plans. No, she wasn't, no one likes that building. So,
Any other questions for the applicant? Okay, thank you, sir.
thanks.
Great. Now council prepared to close the public hearing. Go ahead, please, Suzanne.
Be it resolved that council close the public hearing of council for variation order 71-2022, 3184 Henderson Island.
Thank you. Can I get a word for a second? Costa was a Birch, all in favor? That's carried. The public hearing is closed. And I'll open it up for council discussion. Councilor Paretchko.
So I have a hard time supporting this based on the application because we do not allow separate garages or buildings before a home is on the property. So I can't, a home would have to be built first. So.
Terrence, did you?
Yeah, I did.
Go ahead. You go.
Yeah, I wouldn't support on that. Putting just the garage up on properties against their bylaws. And then secondly, the size. I know just because it was there doesn't make it right, but if you ever neighbors said you put 2,400 up there, that'll be coming up next. That's precedent setting in the area. We've had 2,400 before and people have come back. So 12. There's also a house going where they can put a 5-6 car garage and three wide, 3 deep also. The size I wouldn't be.
I have a question for the planner. Am I able to ask my question still? Okay. If the individual tore the shop down and amalgamated his lots together, with the approval of the variance to build the 2,400 square foot shop stay with the property, or would that be dissolved based on it being demolished and moved to a different location?
It would be dissolved. They would have to go again or amend this application.
Okay. Okay, and when you took the application, was it your understanding that the structure was going to be moved or that it was going to be demolished and then rebuilt?
It was my understanding that it was going to be moved.
Thank you.
I agree with my fellow councillors on what they commented. But what bothers me is that just the timing of this. Property at 3174 was up for sale in February, I presume, and there was a potential buyer, of course, looking at it and decided to purchase it. That potential buyer is not here to voice an opinion, and that property is the one most affected by this proposal. It puts that big shop right beside that rather attractive looking property. And that purchaser, who has apparently closed the deal just recently, has no idea. And that really concerns me. So this whole proposal seemed to come forward in between owners, so to speak. I cannot support this proposal.
Thank you. I'll just put my opinion forward. I'm opposed to it strictly on the issue that we do not allow accessory buildings on properties that don't have homes, and it's based simply on that size and location aside. That's my primary concern.
I can concur. I don't agree with putting a shop on a residential lot because essentially it becomes then a commercial lot. And that's not what this is meant to be. But Councillor DeBella, I can't agree with you that we should take consideration to the neighboring property that is not present today, because it is their position of being a homeowner that they have to be monitoring and knowing what's going on in their community as well, regardless of when they took possession. I'm sure the signs were posted, so they would have the opportunity to come forward. But tonight, I could not support the application the way it stands, and I do find the application confusing based on information from the applicant. It's really not what we would be approving anyways.
All right, those comments being said, is council ready to move forward with the resolution? Okay, thank you. Go ahead, Suzanne.
Be it resolved that variation order 71/2022 be approved subject to the following conditions. This variance is limited to a maximum building area, height, and placement of the detached accessory structure before the principal building as proposed within this application. Any changes in use, additions, and/or replacement may require a new variance approval. Applicant owner obtains all required permits from the Red River Planning District, Manitoba Transportation and Infrastructure, Water Management, Manitoba Transportation and Infrastructure, Roadside Development, and the Municipality. The proposed accessory building is to be used for personal use only.
Thank you. Can I get a mover and seconder, please? Moved by Postumus, seconded by Horechko. Any last comments? All for the question, all in favor? Opposed? That is defeated. All right. Let's see. Okay, we're going to take a quick 5-minute recess. Please to read the resolution to open this public hearing.
Be it resolved that council open the public hearing of council for variation order 73/2022 for 3454 Henderson Highway.
Thank you. Can I get a mover and second, please? Horechko and Duval, all in favor? It's carried. Public hearing is open, and I'll turn the floor over to Mr. Singh for Red River Planning to walk us through the application.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This is variance application VU 73/2022. The subject property is located at 3454 Henderson Highway. The applicant wishes to allow for multiple variances for an accessory building in the rural residential zone. This is the variance request table. The applicant wishes to vary the front yard and side yard requirements of an existing shed and a new proposed garage. The applicant also wishes to vary the requirement that an accessory structure should be located in line with or behind the principal building. This is the location map identifying the subject property and illustrating the surrounding area. As you can see, the property fronts Henderson Highway and there is residential development on both sides of the highway. This is the site plan provided by the applicant. As you can see, the applicant wishes to construct a 336 square feet garage that is placed in front of the principal building facing Henderson Highway. Red River Planning notes that the proposed garage is smaller than the allowed size and we did not receive any objections on this proposal. If the council wishes to approve this variance, we recommend 3 conditions. Number 1, this variance is limited to a front yard setback and side yard setbacks for the proposed accessory building and the existing shed as proposed with this application. Any changes in use, additions and or replacement may require new variance approval. Number 2, the applicant obtains all the required permits from Red River Planning District, the RM of East St. Paul, and Manitoba Transportation and Infrastructure Roadside Development if required. Number 3, the proposed accessory structure is to be used for personal use only. Thank you. If the council has any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Thank you. Could you bring up the proposed site map as well? Again, I mean. Struggle reading this. Could you just point to where the existing home is right now?
This is the existing home.
Okay, I thought that. So how is the shed? Where is the proposed shed wanting to be built?
This is the proposed garage, and this is the existing shed.
So how is that in front of existing residents? I'm turning around.
Yeah.
I got Henderson at the top now.
Henderson's up.
Now I see.
Henderson.
Okay. Ask an answer. Thank you. Any questions for the planner? Besides the directionally challenged?
Just a quick comment, Mr. Planner, we don't have that in our package.
Yep.
We do?
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Page 57.
Okay, sorry.
All right, other questions?
I just have one question, sorry. The existing shed, the square footage didn't permit for a building permit? Or did he need to have a building permit for the existing shed?
He did not. It's
Did not.
55 square feet.
Okay. Yeah, so he just placed it not knowing side yard requirements. Okay, thank you.
All right, no other questions? And are you Robert?
Hi.
Robert, come on up. Robert Rogoski.
That's correct.
Robert, this is your opportunity. Tell us anything you want about the application.
Okay, perfect. So the existing shed that's there, the 7.5 by 7.5, that was on the property when I bought it. So I moved into East St. Paul 3 years ago, November 2019. And I had 2 existing sheds. I tore one down on the backside in my backyard because there's a derelict like summer kitchen that was that had existed, and then the shed that's in this one odd spot on the odd angle of the property has always been there. It was in good shape. I had no reason to tear it down. I put my garbage bins in there. My intent for the accessory structure is basically it's a detached garage. Why I'm wanting to do this is I noticed in East St. Paul, like 90% of the homes here have triple car garages, covered parking for most of that. My house doesn't. It's small for the area and it's an older home, but I've put in the last 2 years like $30,000 to $40,000 worth of work into for curbside appeal. I want to fitting into the neighborhood and increasing the value of the home, and in addition adding the extra parking space. My original intent was to put the garage right next to my existing garage, but after going through Red River floodway planning, the waterworks, And my engineers, everything, it's a no-go, like it cannot go there. The one and only spot pretty much I can put any sort of detached structure on the property is right there. I can't put it on the north side of my house due to my natural gas lines, and on the satellite photo, you can see when I moved in the house, there's a substantial asphalt parking pad already in place. So I'm very limited scope on where and what I can put on that location. And essentially I'm just putting in a garage there so I have a place to park my truck. Cause my current garage isn't ideal size for a larger pickup truck.
I asked the home that's, if you can give the satellite up there. Yeah, the home that's to the north of you, it's not the same view I have here. Pick the one from the package. Shot, yeah. That home that's to the north of you there, that structure that's closest to your property line, is that a garage? On your side of the house?
That's a garage, yeah. I think it's a 2-story garage. It's huge.
I'm sorry?
I think it's a 2-story garage. It's massive. It's really.
Thanks. Any other questions, Council? Go ahead,
So
Council.
the garage you're planning on building is going to be something that's going to come at your home.
Absolutely. After redoing all our siding and roof last year, I don't think I have any other options to not have my garage. I don't think my wife would approve that one. So.
Thank you.
So looking at it, the depth of the 24 feet coming in, obviously through the side, the lengthways.
Yeah, we'll be coming off Henderson and then.
Henderson and turning into where it says 14 feet and driving in.
That's
The
correct.
vehicles are longer than 14 feet, so you need, trucks are at 19 feet, so
Yeah.
parking one vehicle in lengthways. And where it says 12 feet, you need that for turning radius, because you could go 10 feet and then your side yard would be set.
It would be, it's also where it says 3515, that there's a dotted line that kind of, it goes up and then up. That's the asphalt. That's the parking pad that's already in existence.
Yeah.
So the further I move my structure north, the less actually I lose on my turning radius with the parking pad. I'd be encroaching on my front lawn, which I don't want to really redo again.
And where you're asking the 5-foot side yard, where is how far is it to is there a swale in there? Because you got a swale into the range. Is there a swale in there with your neighbor is there lots of room between your neighbor?
On the south side of the property, it's a vacant lot.
Okay.
There's nothing there. So that the one corner, the most southwest corner of the proposed garage would be the closest, and then because it's at sharp angle. So it's an odd spot to get into, but right now that lot's vacant. They had it listed for 2 or 3 months, but when I talked to my neighbor to the north of me, he said he looked out building there in 2010. He brought in engineers, the same engineers I hired, and they said, you'll never be able to get anything on that property.
There's the erosion on the bank.
Yeah.
It looks green, but there's probably not a lot of land. That's where there was one from. That's why you can't build further back or anything like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Any other questions? Asked earlier, I take it there's nobody online this evening? Okay. There's nobody else here to speak to this application, and so is council ready to close the public hearing? I'm sorry, Suzanne.
Be it resolved that council close the public hearing of council for variation order 73-2022, 3454 Henderson Highway.
By Rechko, seconded by Devlin, all in favor? It's carried, the public hearing is closed, despite Mr. Singh's objection to doing so. I get the resolution read, please, for the application.
Be it resolved that variation order 73-2022 be approved subject to the following conditions. This variance is limited to the front yard setbacks for the proposed accessory building and the existing shed, as well as the side yard setbacks for the proposed accessory building and the existing shed, and the location of the proposed building in front of the principal structure as proposed within this application. Any changes in use, additions, and/or replacement may require a new variance approval. Applicant owner obtains all required permits from the Red River Planning District, the RM of East St. Paul, and Manitoba Transportation and Infrastructure roadside development if required. The proposed accessory building is to be used for personal use only.
Thank you. Can I get a move for a second, please? Retchko and Posthumous, any final discussion? Discussion at all on council? Okay, call for the question. All in favor? And that is. So your application is supported. That's the translation.
Thank you.
You're welcome to stay for the rest of the meeting.
I'm good.
Nobody stays.
Charles got it.
They heard Brighton. Heard Brighton.
That's the Charles, you just Suzanne. Thanks. All right, moving on to, Mr. Singh, is that your end of your items? Thank you so much. Have a good evening.
You're welcome to stay here.
All right, we have several items under bylaws. The first this evening is the dog bylaw. We had first reading, guess that's a month ago now. And so this is for potential second and third reading today. So can I get the resolution, please, for second reading?
Be it resolved that bylaw number 2022-11, being a bylaw of the RM of East St. Paul to regulate dogs, be given second reading.
Thank you. Can I get a mover and seconder? Retchko and Posthumous, any discussion? Call for the question, all in favor? That's carried. And for third reading, please.
Be it resolved that bylaw number 2022-11, being a bylaw of the RM of East St. Paul to regulate dogs, be given third reading. And be it further resolved that bylaws 2001-15 and 2003-12 be hereby repealed. And be it further resolved that the mayor and CAO be authorized to sign the bylaw on behalf of the municipality.
Thank you. Can I get a mover and seconder? Devlin and Duval, any discussion? All in favor? And that's carried. Right, the next bylaw is campaign expenses and contributions bylaw. It is also for second and third reading this evening. If I could get that resolution when you're brought up.
Be it resolved that bylaw number 2022-12, being a bylaw of the RM of East St. Paul to regulate campaign expenses and contributions in connection with municipal elections, be given second reading.
Thank you. Can I get a mover and seconder, please? Duval and Posthumous, any discussion? Call for the question, all in favor? That's carried. And for third reading, please.
Be resolved that bylaw number 2022-12, being a bylaw of the RM of East St. Paul to regulate campaign expenses and contributions in connection with municipal elections, be given third reading. And be it further resolved that the mayor and CAO be authorized to sign the bylaw on behalf of the municipality.
Thank you. Can I get a mover and seconder? Val? And Posthumous. Any final discussion? All in favor? And that's carried. And the last bylaw this evening is municipal management bylaw, first reading this evening. Council received a report on that, but first we will need the resolution.
Be it resolved that bylaw number 2022-13, being a bylaw of the RM of East St. Paul to authorize hours of work, remuneration, and benefits for municipal management employees not covered under another bylaw, a collective agreement, or a fixed term contract, be given first reading.
Thank you. If I could get a mover and seconder. Devlin and Retchko. And I will open it up for discussion, just making a point here, Suzanne, this is first reading, but this is coming forward because of decisions made at the special meeting of July 29th. It's just putting those items approved then into the bylaw.
That's correct.
Okay, thank you. Any comments? All right, we have the motion on the floor.
Must apologize to the council that I wasn't at that council meeting on July 29th, but I can't agree with this. You can't have the title manager being equal pay no matter what the responsibilities are with that position. And that's what this amounts to. We had this discussion in a couple of closed meetings, I think, already. The original bylaw, that was only 3 years old. And we, with Ms. Rhonda Tone helping us create that bylaw, we were very careful to stagger these salaries according to the positions, the responsibility and the duties of the position. And I thought it was done, we did a pretty good job at sorting that out and how they're compared one to the other. And now we are slipping a couple more up into equivalent to the top position. That doesn't make business sense for one thing, but it doesn't make good sense for the morale of people too. Why should somebody who has a lesser job get paid the same as somebody who has a more important job? And we cannot get hung up on this term manager. Somebody's a manager, they have a really lofty, important position equal to everybody else with the same title. That doesn't happen. They're all different. And they should be compensated differently accordingly. Now, again, I apologize, I wasn't at that meeting, but that would have been my argument at that particular meeting. So I can't support, I know it's only first reading. You can do all this debate all over again at the next meeting, but I can't support going forward with this.
Thank you. And as I mentioned earlier, this is already passed by resolution and it is just being put into the management bylaw. So that's the context of this today. And you're right, we weren't at that meeting, so. Appreciate that. All right, so we have the resolution.
If I may comment further, council has the authority to reverse a decision if there are at least two councillors who put forward that process. And that you are allowed to do if there's rules in the Municipal Act for this, if the same councillors are present for the reversal that were there for the original decision. Okay, so there were 4 there. If one of you 4 are missing for this next reversing decision, it can't go forward. And you have a 1-year period to do this. So we have the authority to reverse that decision.
Yeah, Councillor Jones. And I just want to remind everybody that these conversations were held in camera, so to be very cautious about your comments at this table, please.
The resolution was after the camera, correct?
Just the resolution, correct?
So reading the resolution just before this, it says, this was the one after the camera, being resolved that the assistant operations manager and the utilities manager be classified at the same scale as the operation manager. With that said, I got home after we had talked about this. I wasn't really for it then, but I talked into doing it. I don't believe.
So I've just done a caution again. I don't want you to wander into territory that should be discussed in camera if it's personnel related.
No, not personnel related. My opinion on this is the same as Councillor Durrell, that the operations manager and assistant operating manager and the other ones, all managers are not the same. And they should not be the same pay scale. We had gone over this 3 years ago. And I would not support this. And as he said, we have 1 year to rescind what we have put forward. So we could rescind the resolution on the reclassification of certain points.
Thank you. For clarity, you did support this at the original resolution. Thank you. Councillor Devlin.
I'm just wondering if we should move this discussion into in camera at the end of the meeting.
Table it for today and move it into.
Well, just move it, no,
Just at the end of the meeting.
right.
Camera.
Is this really personnel discussion? We're not talking of any individual employee here at all. We're talking of the organization chart, and we're talking of a pay scale that will be presented as public information. That doesn't,
We haven't yet, but it's
Yeah.
sometimes people
Wonder.
wander off topic and then it becomes.
oh, I agree, I agree.
That's what my caution.
But I think so far, we haven't wandered into the in-camera category. You know, we're
I
talking,
hadn't said we did. I
Oh,
was
okay.
putting that caution out,
yes,
just making sure.
yeah, understood.
All right. Councillor Devlin.
The reason that I'm requesting is because maybe there are some questions that could be answered for clarity. Councillor Duval was not present during that meeting. Maybe we need to have an in-camera discussion to come out and then pass or defeat a resolution.
All right, I think if we're gonna have a wholesome conversation on this, that it should be moved in camera to not have any potential issues. So we'll move it. Yeah, I don't know if we need a resolution to alter that, Suzanne? Yes, okay, thank you. I'll give you a minute to put that together.
Be it resolved that item number 6.3 be moved in camera.
I give it a move for a second. Is Rich going posthumous, all in favor? That's carried. All right, that takes us down to finances. We have 5 different items there. Suzanne, if I could get you please to read the resolution for 8.1 schedule of accounts.
Be it resolved that the schedule of accounts dated August 23rd, 2022, amounting to $12,435 be confirmed as paid.
Thank you. Can I get a move seconder, please? Posthumous and Horechko discussion. All in favor? That's carried. And schedule of accounts paid since 19th of July.
Be it resolved that the schedule of accounts paid since the July 19th, 2022 meeting of council amounting to $1,262,574.78 be confirmed as paid.
Thank you. And then seconder, please. Duval and Devlin, all in favor? It's carried. Next item is payroll.
Be it resolved that the net payroll and council indemnities for the RMV St. Paul for July 22nd, 2022 to August 23rd, 2022, amounting to $325,931.86 be approved.
Thank you. A mover and seconder, please. Horechko and posthumous discussion. All in favor? It's carried. And statement of revenues and expenditures from July 31.
Be it resolved that the statement of revenues and expenditures for the period ending July 31st, 2022 be approved as presented.
Thank you. Mover and seconder. Devlin McDowell. Discussion? All in favor? That's carried. And the last finance item is the 2021 audited financial statements.
Be it resolved that the 2021 audited financial statements be approved as presented.
Thank you. Mover and seconder. Val Devlin, any discussion? All in favor? And that is carried. Right, we are down to planning 9.1. This is Province of Manitoba's Bill 37. They have consultation they've opened up for proposed capital planning region regulation. It is open for online consultation until September 16th. It's being brought forward to see if council wanted to provide any feedback to this consultation process. Yeah, Councillor Val.
Yes, of course we do. There's some things in there that we should be concerned about. Particularly the voting, and I won't send to the page right now. The rules for a vote to be carried is twofold. It has to satisfy two different types of majority. One is simply the number of municipalities. I think there are 18. I'm not sure that counts the city. Does that count the city? The city. Plus, there will be 4 board members appointed by the province, so there'll be 22 board members. And the first step to approving a majority is the number of votes, simply the number of municipality votes, simple majority of 22. The second one is those municipalities, those board members voting in approval, their municipalities, the population of their collective municipalities has to be 50% or more of the entire capital region. Now, the entire capital region includes the city of Winnipeg. So Winnipeg is bigger than all the rest of the others put together times who knows how many. So what that means is anything that the city of Winnipeg votes against, it's defeated. So the city of Winnipeg has veto power, simple as that. I don't think that's quite right.
Thank you. That was actually brought up by many municipalities at the technical briefing that the province had, and I sent everybody the PowerPoints from those presentations, a link to it. It kind of puts it in a little bit more layman's language. So if council wants to do a submission, I propose that we probably should move this to a council briefing to have those discussions and use the materials that were supplied that has a bit more of, I'll say, layman's language. It's being converted from the legislation into the practicalities of it. So if council would like to do that, I would suggest that's an easier way forward.
That's fine.
Okay. All right. We will then.
We do have a deadline on September 16th.
Correct.
As I understand it, we just submit things in writing. There's no real, there's no consultation back and forth. It's online.
Comments online, yeah. It's open until midnight, September 16th, and they give the link there to the consultation portal.
Submitted how, verbally or sending in writing? Yeah, right, that's what I'm saying. It's not a interaction event.
It's not a Zoom.
So that's September 16th is the
So I think the report, the request for decision is probably worded differently.
Well, the RFD was basically just authorizing council members to participate in the online consultation or have our community planner.
Okay, good. I got you. So I would get a sense that council would like to be involved in that process, and we could schedule a council briefing to have those discussions and to put our submission together. Does that sound okay with council? Okay. So
We don't need a
we
resolution.
don't need a resolution. Okay, thank you. I think everybody saw that the Minister of Municipal Relations, who is one of the final key shepherds of this project, Eileen Clark, made notification that she is not running again in the provincial election. So, but you, pending no changes to the ministerial portfolios, should be here to carry this forward. So I know we probably through the duration of Bill 37, I think we've had 3 ministers. Right. The way I've counted. That's, yeah. All right. Alrighty, the next is 921, and this is an RFT regarding the purchase of garbage and recycling bins. Can we get the resolution, please?
Be it resolved that council approves the purchase of 185 garbage bins and 185 recycle bins from Firmac Equipment Limited for the cost of $35,457.10 plus applicable taxes. The cost is to be borne by the municipal operating budget.
Thank you. Can I get a mover and seconder? Moved by Postulus and Rechko. I'll open the floor for comments, questions. Hearing none. Oh, great.
If a resident asks for another bin, they have to pay for that, is that correct? What is the fee for that?
I'm not certain. I think $50, but I would want to verify.
You're right.
Is that right? I think that's right. I think it's $50. But I would want to verify. I think that's the case.
I think they had to cover half. So that would be close.
Do we have a surplus right now, or is it that we're depleted our surplus of garbage bins?
We have some in remaining surplus, but we're running low.
Thank you.
All right, with no more questions, I'll put the question to the floor. All in favor? That's carried. Next item is East St. Paul Skating Club ice time request. Resolution, please.
Be it resolved that the East St. Paul Skating Club be granted at no charge 1 hour of ice time on Thursdays from 1 p.m. to 2 p.m. beginning October 1st, 2022 and ending on March 31st, 2023.
Thank you. Can I get a seconder, please? Rechko and Postulus. Discussion? All for the question, all in favor? That's carried. A couple of items under the fire department. The first is the new fire department signage. If I can get that resolution read, please.
Be it resolved that council approves the quote as submitted by SRS Signs and Service Inc. in the amount of $11,770 plus applicable taxes for the design and installation of the exterior signage, including lettering and logos for the arm of East St. Paul Fire Department.
Thank you. Can I get a mover and seconder? Duval and Rechko. We'll open it up to the floor.
I guess my first impression when I saw this right away is the big words East St. Paul, which everybody sees when you come up the highway and recognize that's the community of East St. Paul. It's right there on the building, with big letters. We don't have a much of an immediate recognition of who we are. drive into East Simcoe. I know we've talked about that at times past, but we don't, but that fire hall wall with those big letters there say that's where it is. And now the proposal is to remove that and just put fire department up there. It's just, you know, I'm not really stuck on this, but it's just something that struck me as soon as I looked at the options. And I don't know if anybody else feels the same way.
I did, I thought exactly the same thing. It's been an identifier of ours from the highway for many years. I'm not strongly objected to, it's just like a little bit of a history with our community. Yeah, I liked it too, for that purpose.
I think it's more helpful to identify the municipality rather than identifying the building as a fire department. I mean, it's pretty obvious it's a fire department.
Councilor Devon?
I actually like the drawing, I like the concept, and it still says Arm of East St. Paul in big letters. And I think that as we become, you know, as our population grows, our fire department becomes more sophisticated. Eventually one day we'll see a permanent department there. And I think having fire department there is to an advantage as well, because now, you know, if someone's looking for the fire department, they can't mistake it instead of it just saying East St. Paul, right? So I think it's great. I'm just wondering about how it came about. Is it just that Ray thought that we needed to revamp it?
No, the project was initially approached as a repair.
Okay.
And I put some notes in on that for everybody. Upon further investigation, he noted that the plywood was rotting behind the letters and recommended a complete replacement.
Where's that note in all that?
It should show up in red.
I don't think it was a note, it was part of the report.
That one was. Yeah, if you look at item number 9.3.1 in all that.
Yes.
There's a note there, the same reason for sole sourcing. Do you see
I
that
see that now.
in red?
I see request for decision, concept drawing, SRS signs and services quote. That's what I see. Sorry, that's okay, it's fine.
To play with all that meetings to
That's
provide
fine.
more
Under
information.
background to the proposal, that's where those comments are. The letters are attached to plywood, which has deteriorated over time and are not secure.
Oh, yeah, but I understand that aspect of it, but I just thought that maybe there was another reason why he wanted to change and have the fire department, like if he, yes.
No. I think it was probably just a matter of preference.
And then, because I don't see, oh, I see. You had added comments by ACAO at the bottom. Was that added recently?
Well, I did send out a notice that the RFD was updated.
Are you mixing that one up with the aquadams?
There's a function in all net meetings that allows me to send notes to council.
Yep.
If there's anything that's been changed.
Right.
And I'm looking at it, so I'm not sure why. I'm looking at it through your view as a member, so I'm not sure why you're not seeing it, but
There wasn't an update to the aquadam.
There was,
one
yes.
on Sole sourcing.
yes. Yeah, but there was also one for
this one?
this one.
I didn't see it.
Yeah, I did see it.
I didn't get the email on that notification that came out for the other one. Just the color too, I'll be honest with you, yellow stands out on black a lot more than red does, and I get it's red because it's the fire department, but from a visual and accessibility, you know, that contrast is better on the yellow, so. I don't want to design it, or that's what we're doing, but it's an overall change to it as opposed to just, you know, repairing and replacing what was there already, so. It's kind of nice rationale, but what you're saying is it's probably just preference, nothing else. It's just sort of,
Well, I was thinking I prefer option 2 versus option 1. or very similar, but it's just the size of the car and the St. Paul size. It's bigger than option 2. It's that way.
Honestly, what is the difference between the two of them?
I think
It says R maybe St. Paul is bigger.
Yeah.
in-
in 2 options.
In 2. Yeah, so I can support
All the
that.
measurements are there, yeah.
I mean, the red matches the doors and everything else, so it's kind of. I agree in the yellow. I know in the States, some fire trucks are yellow now. It does stand out. When you look at the yellow, just to see it, you get a cloudy day. Already looking at the first one, you don't even see the R and St. Paul on the second. Glance right. So to me, no, it matches the doors, but. And I like these St. Paul, I would have St. Paul Fire Department. We're not the ones, it's what they want, I guess. Yeah, and if the second one's bigger, the R and the St. Paul's larger letters, I would go with that. Second one, because first one, you don't see that. But it really blends into the black, I noticed that.
Do you think that the red doors stand out?
Doors not what you're looking for, so,
Right. But the red will stand out against the black, just as the red doors do.
I didn't know in the States, they don't like the old fire. See it, you see it. And the ones in St. Clements have like narrow fire hall, they all have the main one. But you think they would have looked at those halls too? That's what
I think everybody,
everybody's doing.
are, revamping their hall. I think Narrow just did theirs, didn't they? It looks really nice.
That was a brand new building. That was a revamp. It was-
Right, but still it's revamping what, building a new structure is revamping their structure.
They didn't have actually, I don't think they had a fire hall there.
Well, they had a building that they went to.
Did it?
Yeah. Yeah. There was a daycare there somehow too, at one point.
I just think the big letter in St. Paul is a marker. It's been there for decades. Recognizable. That's the community that you were now in. With the left turn in St. Paul. Nostalgia attached to it. I just kind of wonder, I'd like to ask the chief, why would you consider taking these things?
Well, maybe to try to appease us all, maybe that R and St. Paul Park would be slightly bigger than it is.
See those letters from half a mile.
Does that wall come out from the building? It's blocked off like that, right?
Well,
Yeah, I mean, there's lots of room there. It could be bigger, but I really, honestly, I don't like the red. To be honest, I find the red harder to read. I like the yellow. Very, very visible, and I prefer as it is. I like the update in the crest. They've kind of, instead of the formal crest, they've incorporated our logo. That's a nice refresh. This is the kind of item that would have been perfect for GPC. Have a whole bunch of different opinions at the table.
you'll use. Took away from us.
Yes, yeah, absolutely, I agree, yeah. So we have a combination of colors, wording, size of wording, so I think I'd like to defer it.
Table it, yeah, table it, yes. What even do we need the RM of? That's so little.
I just think that you're missing the point that this is a fire hall. And it's not supposed to be the focal point of East St. Paul. And we have our RM office that we just put a new sign up to that tells us that this is the RM of East St. Paul. This is a fire hall, and I think that they should have the right lettering on their building and say that it is a fire department. But if you want to take it to another meeting, I just think that they spent time and effort to design this, and I don't know why it's not being supported tonight.
We're just saying, why isn't the yellow fire hall written in yellow? See it so far. See it from the front. It's right away.
Let me ask you a question.
Red blends in.
Would everybody be ready just with the different opinions, and I know, okay, I appreciate your comments, maybe it's a change. Option, if we look at option 2, would everybody be okay with that if we change the lettering to yellow?
No, I like it the way it is.
I agree with Councilor Delwood.
Because if we can deal with it tonight, it's better than dragging this over to
I
another
agree.
meeting. I'd rather just, work through it.
And Councilor Delwood.
I mean, if you compare the yellow to the red, the red looks uniformed. It looks like it doesn't look mixed matched. It looks like it was designed that way. To me, it's a better design concept.
I mean, the pylons are yellow, I can see that, but
Already we have some green, some yellow, some white. I think they're trying to make it look more uniformed and let's bring it up to date.
I like blue person.
Can't be blue.
Councilor Delwood. Opinion on colors, close that part.
Not strong opinion, no.
Or maybe let's say if we, instead of dragging this out for a half-hour conversation, like from a majority standpoint, so let's work with option number 2 on the table right now, just because the wording is a little bit larger. We're all in support of larger wording. We'll start with an area of consensus. Is there 3 people that support this design? I know I sound like I have 2. Of course, co-support this design as is.
Option 2.
We have a 3rd, because I don't want to defeat it tonight. Can we amend it for something that might satisfy the 3 of us?
I would like to see the East St. Paul slightly bigger yet, and I don't know if we need the RM, but Councilor Devon said we have RM in East St. Paul on the building here. Just to make these, because when you look at it, fire department, fine, red, you see big fire department. Look how small the East St. Paul is, you don't even notice it. Unless the scale's out on there.
I think it's just the scale that's out. These letters are going to be 21 inches. They're 21 inches tall. And the ones on fire department are 32 and a quarter. You're also thinking about the size of the area that it's going on it. You don't want to overwhelm it, and then it, they also have a trough coming down there. There's some things that are going on that wall. So I feel like they've probably picked a size that suits the area.
Maybe it's just deceptive on the top.
Yeah, I mean, I think that when you
But if you look at the 32.5-inch letters, yes, bigger than 21, considerably bigger. They're a lot thicker, they're a lot older. You can see those a lot further away than you can.
Yeah. I think just the letters be
And I don't know fast my opinion of that building, where it faces, where it's located on the highest volume highway. We have nothing else really that identifies East St. Paul as you drive by. It says Burns Hill. Sign says Burns Hill. People go back and forth. They recognize that's what East St. Paul is. So if you ask them, where's East St. Paul? They say, oh yeah, you see it on the highway, those big letters. And that's been that way for, I don't know how many years. We've been living here for 33 years, and I know that was there then. So.
It's a long, I remember years ago, not to tell stories, but I was driving to the film festival years and years ago on my motorcycle. in the rain. The only reason I remember reading that sign, knowing where I was. It's the memory I have, and that is a lot of years ago.
If it's yellow or red, I'm not too hung up on that.
Yeah.
But I'm gonna hold fast in my opinion that East St. Paul should remain across the top of the corner roads. Of course, the other side of that wall there is, it's identified as the fire department.
Red doors kind of give it away too, from that standpoint. We've changed the color of them this year. I honestly, I support Councillor DeVal's position. I like the East St. Paul part on that, so I would support keeping it the same. Yes.
I reached out to our fire chief.
Yep.
He said that we chose to put fire department in large letters over the doors to make the building easily identified as the fire hall. We had received comments from residents saying that it should be fire department. But that it wasn't easily identified.
Who needs to be told that building is a fire hall?
Well, I'm just repeating.
Well, who needs to be told that East St. Paul is identified by being on a fire hall? I mean, think about what you're asking for. You're asking for the fire department to display the fact that we're East St. Paul. I think that the fire department needs to display their building for lots of purposes, safety, whatnot. If someone's driving down the highway needs help, they wouldn't know that that's your East St. Paul Fire Department. They would say, oh, that's East St. Paul, it could be their shop. Maybe they need to pull in, and maybe that's how they identify it, if they see fire department.
How many people visit the fire hall? How many people are looking for the fire hall?
It's not a manned fire hall anyhow, so.
There's no one there.
There's nobody there.
Well, eventually this fire hall could become a manned fire hall if our population rises.
By then we'll have something.
Who knows? We can't even decide on having a fire department on the building, let alone build a new one. So I think that maybe we should consider listening to the fire department.
I agree. Well, we have a big LED.
Okay, so at the table, we have two people that like the fire department's option. We have two people that like the existing and would like to replicate it. So Councillor Postumus, you get to be the deciding vote on this.
Oh, thank you very much.
No pressure, Charles.
This seems to happen a lot. I do like the East St. Paul on it. It's going to compromise. The other side, as Councilor DeVal, that says East St. Paul, that larger letters. It's be the same size or something. Should have east of that St. Paul. But I do like the original. I don't think it's that, maybe, you know, we get one resident, two residents calling, all of a sudden we change something we've done before. I always liked it with East St. Paul. Everybody that comes, oh, now I made the turn because I saw the sign. I know it shouldn't be our logo to come into the community, but it is. It's
All right,
see a long ways away.
so let's put this resolution to the floor then,
We can't.
so that we can put a formal answer to it, and then the fire department knows they either have it or they have to go back and make some changes.
We did put it on the table.
Right, that's what I mean, we'll see it through to the end instead of trying to vary their report. So we have it moved and seconded? Okay, is everybody ready then? The existing, did you say option 2 on your thing? Yes, yeah, option 2, so that's the.
Okay, we're voting on option 2.
Right. All right, everybody's ready then? Okay, I'll call the question. All in favor? Opposed? That's defeated. Right, the next item is firefighter protective gear. You put this resolution on the floor, please.
Be it resolved that council approve the purchase of 3 sets of turnout gear for the East St. Paul Fire Department from ABC Fire and Safety Equipment Limited for the cost of $12,898.80 plus applicable taxes.
Thank you. Can I get a mover? A seconder, Rich, Students, any discussion? Call for the question, all in favor? That's carried. Next item was under EMO, and this is aquadams.
Be it resolved that council approves the purchase of 5 3-foot by 100-foot and 4 4-foot by 100-foot aquadams from Layfield Geosynthetics for the cost of $50,869.60 plus freight and taxes.
Thank you. Mover and seconder, please. Duval. Devlin. For David, that your hand wasn't up. Duval and Postumus. Any discussion?
Yes, I have some questions actually. Suzanne, you said you added something to AllNet, but I don't see it here, so I must be doing something wrong. And I didn't open my agenda today. I read it last night, so I'm wondering how I get to where you added. Because it might have some answers to my questions. Or I could just ask my questions. And
You
get
can ask your questions.
Okay, so I have a few. First, we approved aquadams, I think, in 2021 or 2022, or 2020, sorry. Are these the ones that are in not good condition?
So I'll read you Dennis's response to that. He said, we purchased 10 aquadams in 2020. The municipality owns 32 aquadams that are 3 feet or 4 feet in diameter. We have 26 aquadams that are owned by the consortium in our storage trailers. They are beyond their expiry date and would be the last one we deploy if required, and only if easily accessible areas should we be concerned about possible failure. We have had to remove some from service every time we test them. Many of them have been deployed numerous times and suffered some damage. So along with age and damage, we are concerned about failure during deployment. We deployed the aquadams in 2016 and had the storage trailers in our yard this spring on standby. We were strongly considering deploying them this year, and only a rainfall or an additional couple inches of water away from having to deploy them in Eagle Creek this spring. The total footage of aquadams we would need to keep the Red River and Bottomley Creek within their banks and prevent flooding and in Highland Park. The aquadams I'm requesting are only to replace the 7 we took out of service this spring after testing due to age and damage during deployment.
Okay, so I guess my concern is we have these and we had a flood and we had residents affected and we did deploy them. So did he answer to that? Does he have an answer to when we use them?
He said we had many residents taking thousands of sandbags to protect their homes. We were about half to 1 foot away from having to deploy the aquadams in Highland Park. That would mean deploying all along the Red River and parts of Bottomley Creek. We would need every foot of aquadam to provide this protection, not including low-lying areas along the Red River. As for why we didn't deploy them this year is we simply didn't have enough personnel. Everyone we had was making sandbags Saturday and Sunday just to keep up with resident demand. So we decided this was the best option.
Okay, well, I guess for me, it's a little disappointing because if residents we're using taxpayers' dollars to purchase these and we're not using them in a flood situation, and residents who have a hard time with sandbagging are out trying to get sandbags, but we have the ability to protect their homes. So unfortunately, I think I would have liked to see them being deployed through our flood. I don't know if you want to answer that, but she looked at you, so.
Yeah, just for clarification, the use of the aquadams is typically for the protection against river flooding, high river flooding. What we experienced this spring was largely overland flooding that came from surrounding areas moved overland, overwhelmed local drainage systems and so forth. The deployment of the aquadams is normally along riverbanks when the river elevation comes up to a certain level, which didn't quite happen this spring. So they're applied in sort of a different context. I don't know if that helps or not.
So we can't use them in Eagle Creek where the creek comes up, just like the Red River would come up? Would it be the same scenario? You have water rising. So the Red River wasn't rising, but our creeks were, and you know, people were at risk. So I'm just wondering why they weren't deployed in that situation.
Yeah, there might be some situations where you can look to do that, keeping in mind that in Eagle Creek itself, there was only one or two properties that were, or a handful of properties that were at immediate risk. A lot of them had heavy snow cover on the yards as well. And so kind of localized management with sandbagging and redirection of flow of sandbags were used. A lot of the sandbags were used to kind of protect sort of local drainage issues, local drainage controls. It wasn't really about holding back waterway like the Red River. And I'm speaking on behalf of EMO, of course, but that would be your normal application of aqueducts. So it's sort of the use of sandbags are very helpful in terms of like managing kind of local drainage issues, whereas aqueducts would be used to kind of hold the river within its channel or within its banks. That would be the normal application for them. Certainly, there could be special cases from time to time when you might be able to use an aqueduct, but that sort of situation didn't arise.
Yeah, I can appreciate that, for instance, residents on Wallace were experiencing a different type of flooding, but in Pritchard Farm properties, we were experiencing high water levels. I'm not certain of snow because I lived there and I didn't really think that we had a lot of snow on the ground at that time, but I do think that in one pond in particular, it would have been a useful product to use, but that's just my questions, because I just want to, we're purchasing these, and if we're not using them to help out residents, then, and they're expiring, they're getting, you know, animals are getting at them. I would just like to make sure that we're using them, because they're costing a lot of money. And you don't want to have to use them. We don't want to flood. But if they're an option and we have them, I don't know why we're not offering them when we have rising water levels.
Yeah, I sandbagged the last time when they had the big flood on Eagle Creek. They did use them, like the Schmidt House and a couple others.
But that's back then, Charles. I'm saying today.
No, they can be used there.
Yeah, I know.
My other concern was they said we have a consortium ones and we're storing trailers. If they're consortium, why are we paying for trailers to store them? It's my one concern. And the other was we used to get grants before, like even the building sustainability. I'm just wondering why EMO never applied for grants.
So if I could answer, the consortium ones are on little mobile trailers, not big trailers,
not
and
those.
every member of the consortium has some pieces of equipment. They're all kind of spread around. And they were purchased with government funding.
Yeah.
And the government did not replace that funding did not keep that funding in place to replace everything. So what we have is just kind of you know, what was there, and it's not being replaced by the province. None of the consortium equipment is, and they were pumps and all sorts of flood fighting equipment.
We used to get grant money. I was just wondering if it would fall under building system because they put it all in one basket. Is that what we would look down in the future? And the reason I mentioned trailers because in the budget we had trailers to store. So the trailers are storing alcohol. Actually counts, I guess. Some of those questions can be answered by legal in the future about where they go, when they go. You know, you can maybe come to a GPC meeting. You know, but I think we need to, you know,
pass this tonight to get them. The use of them would be now next EMO meeting, whatever it is.
But these are to replace the 7 that are damaged.
Yeah, yeah.
That's the proposal, is to replace some that are damaged. We're not here to discuss when, where, and how they should be employed, because I don't think any of us really know. But obviously, a decision was made some time ago to have this many in inventory. And now 7 of them are not serviceable anymore, and they want to replace them. That's the proposal, and the money's in the budget. They figured this at budget time.
All right, we have the motion on the floor, correct? It's been moved and seconded. Any final comments? A call for the question, all in favor? That's carried. Next item is Courageous Companions funding request. Not one we have provided funding for, but it's quite common that we get correspondence requesting funding for different projects. So anybody at council wants to make a recommendation on this?
I think I could support this. I think that we have a canine in our community, an RCMP that trains or is always in the field with his dog. So I think they're extremely valuable to the department, and I would support it.
So this specific one is not for RCP.
I understand, but it's still about service. Oh, sorry.
This is the one.
Did I read this wrong?
This is the one for veterans.
Oh,
So
these
this-
are, okay, I read it wrong,
Yeah,
sorry.
veterans train dogs for.
Well, I can support that as well.
Yeah, and you know what, we have a Legion in our community, and they support a lot of good causes, and I would also like to support it. I'm gonna suggest that we consider a minimum of, not a minimum, but a half page at $870. It costs $32,000 to train one of these service animals.
Yeah, Madam Mayor, you will recall, of course, that the Remembrance Day services just passed. There was a veteran there.
Picture of you with them.
Yeah, there was a veteran there with his service dog. And I think it was kind of obvious once you talked to him for a little bit that he went through a lot of trauma, whatever he encountered overseas. And that dog and him were just bonding like this. And they were both attentive to each other, just like they were locked together.
It's amazing.
And it was very amazing how this dog calmed this fellow down. You can, it's a very worthwhile project, and I think we can go better than this to start. I agree with the bigger half page. It's appropriate. We support the Legion greatly, as we should, and this is just an offshoot of that.
All right.
Sometimes it's kind of, I support this, but I think we also definitely got a request from a ladies, a girls team that's going to the nationals without East St. Paul residents, but so technically we don't have a budget for them. So this falls under the same kind of budget. So, I think we have to, if we do one, we should be looking at those rules as well.
Well, I don't think we have to support everything that comes forward. And if we start supporting sports teams, there's no end to that because there's a
But they're going
lot
to
of sports
national
teams
championships.
in this community.
October. So that's.
Well, let's stick with the one we have in front of us tonight, and that can be certainly discussed from a standpoint of budget and how many, considerations, but, it's a one-off and we'll put it to council for a half page. Maybe read that resolution again just to, or we didn't read it, did we? No, let's do it now.
Be it resolved that council authorize administration to place a half-page ad in the Courageous Canine magazine for the cost of $870 plus GST.
I'm gonna move in second, please. Evelyn and Duval, any final discussion? All for the question, all in favor, and that's carried. Great, we have no other business. This is council member reports, if you can submit them to Suzanne for the minutes. And we do have the one item that we did move to in camera, and if we can get the resolution, please to go in camera.
Be it resolved that council now move in camera as per section 152(3) of the Municipal Act to discuss personnel matters. And be it further resolved that all matters discussed while in camera are to remain confidential as per section 83(1)(d) of the Municipal Act.
Thank you. We're gonna move for a second, please. Let's do this. Rich, vote. All in favor? That's carried.